Good evening. It's great to be able to see so many people on a Friday night, which would probably otherwise be in the boozer. I'm from Dundee, and I know a few faces here that would be here, and it's great to see this. It's such a politically alive moment for all of us. I'm an ordinary person, actually. I run a business in financial services. I previously worked in filmmaking, and previous to that, I had a job of taking people up the Himalayas on 1950s motorbikes. So when I started to get engaged in the whole political debate, like a lot of yourselves here today, what really frustrated me was, first of all, it was all about Alex Salmond and the SNP. And the second thing was that, don't worry, we're better together. And the obvious question was, well, if we're better together, are we all feeling better together? So over the last 2 or 3 years, as I started to get more and more engaged, I studied politics when I was younger, but what I felt consistently about politics was it was for somebody else. Although I was very excited about it, I felt I could never really change anything. And over the last 3 years, I found myself slowly but surely getting more and more involved. I joined a political party. I'd actually been in a political party in the 90s, who are now in Better Together. I happen to be in a political party now who's campaigning for a fairer society and a more socially just Scotland. I also joined Business for Scotland because I have a business background. I wanted to know more about the case for an independent Scotland from a business side. And lastly, I wanted to go out and canvass, and I know 1 or 2 people here from Radical Independence, and I wanted to hear their views and hear what's going on at the doors. And the things that came out very often was, we're not getting enough breadth of information. And I thought that's a bit odd because there's umpteen organisations putting out stuff. And the second thing was, it's all about the politicians, what about us? So about 4 months ago, I made a decision to set up what's called the Spirit of Independence. And Spirit of Independence is really an embodiment of all of this and all of us. I started off with an idea, we need a vehicle. So I have a 1950s former military Green Goddess, which was built to protect you in the time of a nuclear strike, which is a bit funny really because its top speed is 45 miles an hour. And it was there to put the flames out apparently. So, and now we've converted it to be a vision of hope. It's got beacons on the top that flash when we drive, which apart from the high visibility have been blue, and have this big beautiful woman on the back, which is about the rebirthing of a nation state. All her cabinets have been converted to carry the various organisations' material. So everything from all parties to no parties, for women for independence, Labour for independence, you name it, I've got it. So if anybody here says they don't have enough breadth of information, come and see me now or very shortly. The second thing is we decided to do a journey around the whole of Scotland. I wanted to hear the voices that people were talking about in the street. It's all very well when you're in a locale. This is my locale, which is Dundee. But I wanted to hear what it's like in Dumfries or Dunoon, where I was yesterday. I also want to hear what it's like in Isle of Skye or Aberdeenshire or around the Moray Coast. And we're only halfway through 1,500 miles so far. The other thing was I wanted it not to be about Chris Law. I wanted it to be a grassroots from the bottom up. And Libby just mentioned earlier about crowdsource funding. That's exactly how we did it. We had more than 350 funders. Things that people have been talking about when we go on the street. We're either on the street during the day at street stalls, we've been out in various canvasses, and interestingly, the world is watching. In the last week, we've had 4 international news organisations. Incidentally, BBC Scotland and STV have not yet contacted us. In Aberdeen, for example, just to give you an idea of some of the questions people are asking, when I was in Aberdeen, let me go back, a week past Saturday now, and we were on the street there, on Union Street, ironically. There was 4 campaigns, Women for Independence, the CND, there was a Palestine organisation, about Free Palestine, and ourselves, along with Yes Aberdeen. It's a really bustling day, and lots of people came over. Better Together did turn up for about an hour and 10 minutes. We were there from 9:30 till 6 p.m. And during that time, people coming over and asking questions. Do you have information on this? Do you have information on that? Things are changing enormously. The narrowing down of the conversation, the shutting down of ideas by Better Together is falling apart, quite frankly. People are no longer asking, can we afford it? They're now asking, can we afford not to? One young student called Jack came over. He's 17 years old. He's concerned about what happens when we vote no and suddenly he's got £10,000 a year tuition fees. Last week in the Yes Leith shop, another young chap, 26-year-old, felt gutted because he's now got £60,000 of debt trying to be a lawyer, and he still doesn't know how he's going to vote. Until I reminded him that out of all the organisations I'm carrying, not one of them is talking about introducing tuition fees. I also met a pensioner in Forres, and she was being interviewed. She was saying, I'm voting no, and this was with the BBC. And I said, why are you voting no? And she says, because Scotland's got nothing. Everything's been taken away already. Have a think about that. So that's the kind of the things come out. And I said, later on we had a little discussion. I said, how do you feel about your pension? She says, don't worry about my pension. I said, do you know it's the worst pension in Europe? Gobsmacking. She's like, really, is that right? I said, and guess who's paying for it? She said, no, I paid for it myself. She said, no, you know, I'm paying for it, along with everybody else who's working, because there is no pot. Your national insurance that you put towards your pension just went in the same pot, and none of it's been kept. So I like to see Scotland change dramatically. I like to see us not just investing in the now, but in the long term. And with a government that we have just now, which is doing well, but it's been, and hopefully will continue to do so, the most important thing is that we have a proportionally representative Parliament, which we have here. So if you're not happy with the SNP, you can vote them out. It's no big deal. If you're not happy with the other party goes in, you can vote. But whatever you do, you'll always get the government you vote for. We're going to continue for another, I think, 90 days, right the way through. In fact, it was biblical. It's 40 days, 40 nights. And believe me, on the first day, it was pissing rain completely. We've also, just so you can, to find out a bit more about what we're doing, and also to watch little short films, I'm working with my filmmaker, and we're making these short films which are 4 or 5 minutes long. Some of them about people talking in the street, some of them about some of the lead campaigners in Scotland, and there's a huge range. So you get a chance to get a feel about what people are talking about. And some of us just don't have the time, so when you're sitting at home and maybe not getting to every political meeting you like to go to, you can have a look at these and you can share them, and it helps build confidence. I'll finish on one last thing, if it's okay. I met Christian Allard, and he really inspired me last week or so when I was in Stoney. I keep forgetting where I am, I keep travelling around. I was in Stoney having breakfast, and he said, Chris, 2 things. First of all, Scotland is wealthy, not just in terms of income, but it's people. And it's these people who want to make the changes. And each one of us has a vote. This is the most important vote of our lives. And it's not just for us, it's for the next generations. And the second thing he reminded me of was that this isn't actually traditional Scottish values. He came here 30 years ago because of traditional British values. And I think it was Robin that just mentioned the spirit of 45. That was about almost like reminiscing about that period after the Second World War, where people died and fought for those things. All we are trying to do here in Scotland is hold on to them and do something with it and make it better. We have right now the decimation of NHS under the Health and Social Care Act in England at the moment. 80 private companies are now in on the take, one of which is Richard Branson. So if you want to build a good society, a society that is a balance between business and a balance between people, you need a representative democracy, and you need to have shared values. And the measure of a good society is that. And I can assure you, in our little fire truck that's going all around Scotland just now, for every organisation we carry in a moment, they all share those values. Thank you.
They're going to ask the people, is independence best? I'm thinking Bonnie Scotland, that the answer could be yes.